welcome back to a Tomboy Rex. I'm a Tomboy and this is my reaction channel, of course. On tap we have today, James Charles' career is basically dead. Why? By Sunny V2. Now I done heard some stuff about James Charles. I know exactly who he is. Unlike some other people I've reacted to. Come on, camera. The camera it don't like me today. I know exactly who it is. So let's get into it.
2 years ago, James Charles was one of the most popular names when discussing the YouTube mainstream.
Yep.
He was playing Minecraft with PewDiePie, hosting his own reality TV show, all while his personal YouTube channel was clearing well over 100 million views per month.
Yeah,
However,
he got a huge
over the
following.
last year, things have
got a
changed
makeup company
significantly.
too.
He's lost over 1.5 million subscribers, equivalent to losing more than 100,000 subs per month. His average viewership per video has declined from well over 10 million to a little.
I think that had to do with something. I think he was grooming at some point.
Little over 1 million, all while his Twitter hasn't seen any positive follower growth during the same time period. You might say that James Charles has become the poster child victim of internet cancellations. However, we should use the term victim lightly, as the death of his career has certainly been self-inflicted and could have easily been avoided, with his terrible management of controversy and subsequent career decline having begun back in early 2019, after James Charles would mention that he was most attracted to straight men.
I want a boy who is straight.
Love that for you. That's easy.
It's easier than you would think.
This statement resulted in the first contributing factor to his eventual downfall, after a fan would post this photo of James Charles and another unknown individual to Twitter, questioning James as to whether or not this was potentially a new relationship. The unknown person in the image was—
please don't go down that road. You talking about you want somebody that's straight? I mean, and you're part of the, like, are you gay or are you lesbian or something like that? Which pretty much the same thing, but they use it interchangeably for men and women, or other people who don't identify as men and women. But that ain't gonna leave you nothing to just heartbreak. It's just gonna lead to heartbreak.
Later revealed to be Gage Gomez, a straight Instagram model who'd been talking to James for 5 months in the lead up to Coachella 2019, where this photo had been taken. With Gage being straight, James would respond to the Twitter post by stating, "Nope, unfortunately I am still very single. This boy played me for months on end and is a disgusting con artist. I'm thankful I had my friends with me to protect me." Every single bit of misfortune that would occur in James Charles' life from here on out can be traced back to this specific tweet, as after making it, Gage, the Instagram model involved, would create a YouTube video stating that James pressured him into meeting up despite knowing that he was straight.
He then started to begin putting a little bit of pressure on me, of getting to know me, like disregarding the fact that I told him I was straight, because as you all know, this person 99.9, maybe even 100% of the time goes after heterosexual men.
And while this video hardly warranted a response and could have easily been the end of the drama, James made yet another mistake. After Gage would post the video explaining his side of the story, James would take to Twitter with a classic multi-paragraph notes app tweet trying to explain why he was in the right, beginning with the good old "I will address this now and never again." And if we learned anything from the Only JS video, it's that addressing or responding to criticism in a serious manner leads to almost certain career suicide over the long run, as audience love to berate an influencer who they know they can get a response or reaction from. For example, on that very same day that James Charles would respond to the criticism with his classic "I take responsibility" notes app tweet, this video will be posted to YouTube titled "James Charles hitting on straight guys for 17 minutes, which might not have ever been posted if James had simply
the man said he likes straight
in the first place.
Men, so
really cute.
I mean, that video is not much of a call out, I guess.
The universal reporting of the drama led to a heightened awareness about James's tendency to pressure straight men into hanging out, and subsequently others would come forward stating that they had a similar experience. This was the reason behind the infamous tardy cancellation attempt, literally only 2 weeks after the drama with Gage, which we discussed just prior.
Oh my god, you tried to trick a straight man into thinking he's gay yet again.
While at Tardy's birthday party, James Charles would mention that he found the waiter attractive.
You were talking in detail about things you wanted to do to the waiter.
Now,
and
see,
when
now,
I said, James, he's straight.
Your
response was, doesn't matter, I'm a celebrity.
And as a result, James would find the waiter on Instagram before messaging him the following day. The waiter, whose real name was Sam Cook, mentioned that he was bi-curious, subsequently meeting up and making out with James Charles for about an hour.
Well, he chose to do this, so I mean,
at that time I was bi-curious. curious. I had never done anything with a guy before, and I was curious. I said yes. We ended up making out for around an hour.
Afterwards, the two would part ways.
How do you make out for an hour? Like,
later,
Jesus,
James would
don't you
offer to
come up
fly
for
Sam
breath?
to LA, which Sam denied, as after his first experience with James, Sam had decided that he was straight.
He wanted to fly me out to LA. That kind of freaked me out because at that point I was pretty sure I was straight.
Resulting in James pressuring Sam further.
Okay, so when he said he was straight, it should have been done with.
He thought I was bisexual or gay and attracted to him when I told him different.
As a result of Tati publicizing the drama,
crazy.
in which James Charles looked like the bad guy, James lost 3.1 million subscribers over the course of a week, in the process setting the YouTube record for the most subscribers ever lost in 24 hours, 1.26 million, which he still holds to this day. However, in spite of losing 3 million subscribers, this certainly wasn't the end for James Charles. He'd gained around 2 million of them back after posting a pretty cool, calm, collected response, showing that Tati was just being an immature child who was clearly trying to drag his name down for her own personal gain. As a result, over the long run, the heat was taken off James and instead focused on Tati, giving James free exposure with fairly minimal downside. Subsequently, his average viewership would triple from 50 million per month to 150 million per month over the following year. However, there was one thing that hadn't been forgotten by his audience. James Charles still had a tendency to respond or defend himself in the face of criticism, which if anything had been amplified by his multiple responses and apologies whilst involved in the Tati Westbrook drama. Even more insidiously, the fact that James Charles had gotten off scot-free might have given him a layer of false confidence, reinforcing that a public apology was a simple ticket to get out of drama, whilst in almost any other situation, a public social media apology generally hurts the creator's reputation over the long run, as James would come to discover when the real drama would begin in early 2021.
I'm not physically attracted to older guys, which sucks. Like, I would date like the absolute youngest, like 18, 19 that looks a little bit older, or like 24 that like has a young personality.
To say that this clip aged like milk would be a colossal sized understatement. Mentioning on the Impulsive podcast that he was attracted to younger boys would come back to haunt James when in February 2021, a user by the name of Isaiah13 made a post on Twitter stating, "If you're gonna text someone, make sure you know their age." He added me on Insta. My Insta has my TikTok, which shows my age at James Charles, with an attached photo of his TikTok description showing that this person who James had been texting was only 16 years old. Isaiah, the individual who created this Twitter post, then took to his TikTok explaining that things got heated after James would add him
It did age like milk.
on Snapchat.
James Charles snapped me on Snapchat. He added me back. I've always looked up to him, so I was excited to get his message back. I'm gonna post proof of it right now. This is the notification that I got when he Snapchatted me first. And just for further proof, he deleted the chat. I don't know what he deleted, but that's me opening his Snapchat. I went into the bathroom, and I guess he saw the bathroom light, so he started making the conversation very sexual, and it made me really uncomfortable. And I'll post some of the stuff that he sent me now. You can't see it because it's blurry, because I took it on my iPad, because I don't want him to see that I screenshotted it, but I'll post it right now. He proceeded to send me explicit pictures of his body.
Which was followed by Isaiah stating that James Charles had also tried to pressure him into sending inappropriate photos.
So after sending me that first picture of his body, explicitly, he sent me multiple after that.
That's crazy.
I was getting really uncomfortable, so I told him my age. I told him
and
I'm
it's
16.
the fact that he put
Meanwhile,
these pictures
he's
on the
21.
internet as
He's
well.
a grown man. And then he proceeds to say, oh, but I didn't even get to see the, meaning my body. And after telling him, like, no, like, I'm not gonna send it to you, he kept on asking for pictures and videos of body hair and me flexing and stuff.
Now, we need to remember something. Addressing criticism had been effective for James Charles in the past. During the Tati situation, he simply explained his side, and because Tati's cancellation attempt was so pathetic, James's audience forgave him and everyone quickly forgot about it. This time, however, the allegations had substantially more weight behind them and weren't nearly as pathetic, yet James probably still thought that if he simply addressed the criticism again, everything would go away, which isn't what happened. James Charles would post a tweet reading, "There's a video going around about me on TikTok and Twitter of a guy calling me a groomer, and I want to address it right away. The accusation that I've groomed this person is completely false. Last week, I came across someone on my Instagram Explore page, saw he followed me, and added him on Snapchat. The next morning, I woke up to several snaps from this person being excited I added him back, saying he loved me, and also lewd photos of himself in the shower. I asked how old he was right away, and he told me he was 18, so I started flirting back. Later in the day, he said a few things that made me question the validity of his original age answer, and when I asked him to confirm his age once again, he admitted he was 16. I told him I was really uncomfortable and apologized for flirting, but he insisted on continuing talking, saying it could be our little secret. He's a fan of mine and would never tell anyone. I told him I wasn't okay with this. He started getting upset, and at this point I unfriended him. We haven't spoken since. However, the other person involved would respond to the tweet stating, James, we both know I blocked you. You never asked for my age. After I told you I was 16, you proceeded to ask me for nudes and said it didn't matter. You called me hot and said I wish the timeline could speed up so you can be 18, attaching a photo of his block list with James Charles on it. The issue with the whole thing was that their interaction had taken place on
Now, see, what's happening is there's no evidence of what he said to him or what the dude or what the 16-year-old said to him back. And that's where it gets hairy, because either could lie because of that hole. So it's like I said, his truth, and the truth, the actual truth. So either could lie about what, because he could have blocked James after the fact and said, oh, look, I blocked him. Or he could have blocked him and he's telling the complete truth. We don't know. So it's like, that's where people get to being like, oh, well, this and it. And they get to trying to argue one person's point over the other person's point, or they just run with the story. The truth needs to be shared with receipts.
Snapchat, and therefore limited evidence existed for either side of the argument.
Exactly.
It was James's word against some random 16-year-old TikToker's word. Sure, the kid had evidence of James asking him for inappropriate photos, but it's impossible to know if this had been from before or after James found out that he was
created
underage.
doubt.
In all honesty, James's argument seemed to make way more sense. He stated, I would never knowingly engage with anyone underage and put my life on the line for a few Snapchats. James had everything to lose whilst the TikToker had everything to gain. And at a time during which influencers were being cancelled left, right and center for talking to minors, it seemed almost unthinkable that James Charles would be dumb enough to knowingly risk exchanging photos with a 16-year-old. However, when 3 other individuals would come out stating that they'd had a similar experience, James's side of the argument would become impossible to believe.
Anyways, he
got
goes,
mountain evidence against you, man.
I was like, okay, whatever, I don't care. So then he starts going, oh, send me pictures of your boxers, show me what you're wearing. Wait, things start to get really weird because he started asking me for pics of this thing over here.
Individuals such as Ethan Klein from H3H3 Productions took to Twitter in a post reading, congratulations to James Charles on his Kids' Choice Award. It's great because kids have always been his choice too. P.S. Nickelodeon, please keep an eye on him during the after party, while others such as Keemstar would go so far as to state that James Charles should be put in prison.
I'm gonna go off on James Charles today. He needs to be put in a cage, alright? I am so done.
Before going on to state that there were too many examples of this happening to dismiss each occurrence as an accident.
How many times does this need to happen
especially
for
when
us
it's
to stop saying,
video
oh,
proof now.
James got
Picture and
trapped,
video
James got tricked? Like, how many times until we can say, oh wait, maybe James is intentionally doing this? Just maybe, you know, just a thought out there.
As James's name was being dragged through the mud, the methods by which he could earn an income began to disintegrate. He'd be removed from the YouTube Partner Program, meaning he could no longer earn ad revenue from the platform. His incredibly lucrative makeup deal with Morph was terminated, all while he was removed as the host of Instant Influencer, but not before he'd teach those on the show how to do a fake apology video.
Take this from me because I've had to deal with this. As an influencer, when you grow a following, you will either say or do something that people might not like and might not agree with, and eventually you might have to apologize. So for today's compact challenge, you guys will be filming your very own apology video.
Which is, unsurprisingly, what James Charles would post next.
Hello everyone, James Charles here.
That's crazy. You done
very important.
You done messed yourself up.
Feeling the heat from the whole situation, James Charles would upload a video titled Holding Myself Accountable, in which it include all the classic fake garbage designed to make it seem like James was morally righteous.
People can literally go to whatever video he just shot with them people and go back and forth the way he's doing his own video. That's crazy.
Sorry.
People can never trust you again, so after that, they're gonna look for any little bit to just stick a fork in you.
Followed by James blaming the motive behind his actions on desperation.
And I couldn't understand why relationships were the one outlier. Why were they not working? And I finally came to a conclusion. And it is ridiculously embarrassing to admit this, but I think I have to, and that is that I'm desperate.
The whole apology just felt really fake.
And I'm taking this very, very seriously.
There was no evidence proving that he wasn't in the wrong, and it seemed as though the goal of the apology was sympathy rather than a structured dismissal of the allegations. He'd end the video by stating that he planned on taking a little bit of time off.
I'm going to be taking some time away to reflect and further educate myself on these topics.
It sounds like
at this point it's really important that I do so I'm able to follow through with my word and prove to you guys that I will be a better person.
Also adding that he didn't plan on simply forgetting about the incident.
My expectations are not to, you know, press post and then forget about it and move on and wash my hands as if nothing happened.
I mean,
because
you can't
something
do that
did happen.
anyway.
And what happened was not okay.
Because your monetization is social media.
Yet this was probably one of the dumbest things that he could have said. When involved in drama, it's best to be passive about it. If you're going to be dumb enough to acknowledge it, say something brief then move on. The longer you dwell on it, the more your audience will see that it's a big deal to you. It also didn't help that James would take 3 months off YouTube after uploading his apology video. He probably thought that his audience would interpret this as, oh, James is away from YouTube working on himself, but in reality it just felt like this dude just used his crappy behavior as an excuse to get out of 3 months work. When James would return, he was still talking about the drama as if he hadn't moved on over a quarter of a year later.
But I also think it would be ridiculous and irresponsible to try to just come back to social media and pretend like nothing happened and move on with regularly scheduled makeup programming. So I do also have some pretty serious topics to discuss in today's video as well, being what happened a couple of months ago.
In the process, James would lose 1 million subscribers whilst dropping his monthly view count from 150 million a month to around 20 million a month. Prior to the drama, it was unusual for one of his videos to gain less than 5 million views. However, since the drama, it's now become unusual for one of his videos to get 5 million views at all. When you search James Charles on Twitter, a solid 30% of the posts are memes about him liking underage boys, while another 50% comprise other miscellaneous posts with a negative sentiment towards James Charles. His reputation simply never recovered from what you could argue to be terrible management of controversy. He had opportunity after opportunity to fix his decline, yet seemed to trip at every single hurdle.
Well, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's some crazy stuff. I don't, like I said, it's always his truth, someone else's truth, and the real truth. That's with any story. So, I mean, like the first accusation, he admitted he liked straight guys, and the dude was straight. He was of age. I'm assuming he was of age. But once evidence starts mounting, and you have multiple people, come on, camera. You have multiple people saying this with proof. They have receipts. At some point, these people have to be telling the truth. Like, they have receipts. You don't have anybody to investigate for you. I mean, you this big. You don't have people to say, oh, this person is of age. Like, you don't have people to figure that out for you. I mean, look. Hey, the video will be in the description below. Decide for yourself. That's all I can say. Decide for yourself. Because to me, that's crazy. That, like, I don't know why people do the things they do. Why they even do things like that. Like, it's ridiculous. But like, leave people alone. All right, leave people alone. My social media description below. Peace.